Okay, hello, good afternoon everybody. So I would like to welcome our panelists and would like to just run through a quick introduction, colleagues actually from different parts of the industry, and I just quickly, I'd like to ask them to sort of introduce themselves just in a few seconds. So starting from the right, Olav, please.
Hi, my name is Olav Kolbu. I'm the CTO of a company called Telenor Digital, which is sort of the services and internet part of the Telenor group, which is telco.
Hi, my name's Iain Sharp. I'm a technical consultant and developer evangelist for the standards development organization ATIS based in the US.
My name is Douglas Tait. I'm the product marketing manager for the WebRTC product at Oracle.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Stefan Ried. I'm CTO with Unify. And Unify, you might remember, formerly known as Siemens Enterprise Communications. We do a lot of communication stuff. Meanwhile, Unify really turned into a software company and does a lot of interesting stuff in public cloud services. And we bet our future on WebRTC for a public cloud collaboration and communication service.
Good evening, everybody. I see that there are very few ladies here. Actually, Elias and Victor has to work a bit next time, to get some ladies in the room. But I'm Divya Wakankar. I'm from Belgacom International Career Services from Belgium. And I'm head of innovation and strategy there. I'm responsible for Telecom services as well as services for over-the-top providers and digital service providers. So just to name, I'm working on a voice over LTE, rich communication services. You don't like it, but yes, we are working on it. I'm also involved in WebRTC and looking into global APIs. So that these are all the services that come under my portfolio.
So that's great. So I would like to start with the two questions which I would like to definitely ask my panelist colleagues about. The first question would be then, I think it's definitely, a spot-on question. I think we heard it this evening actually a few times. So what are the opportunities for telcos? So the first question I would like to ask is, what are the specific opportunities for telcos to leverage WebRTC and why? And the second question related to that or building on that would be, what are the obstacles actually to overcome the WebRTC journey? I'd like to hear actually your opinion. I don't know who'd like to give the answer first.
Going down the line or jump in?
No particular order.
I think the specific opportunities for telcos, some of it's obvious in that they have spent decades on making connections and communications work. They have all the gear and the infrastructure for doing things like transcoding, conferencing, and making immediate connections. So it seems to be simplistic, but just to add yet another client, a WebRTC client on, should be an easy thing for them to do. And they can do the heavy lifting of the quality control within the network. But I think the what needs to be done or what needs to be in place is say interoperability or the integration that you can only get by being adaptable or having that level of adaptation. Because we know the wonderful part about standards is there's so many to choose from. And so they always have to do the adaptation from one level to another level. And here we'll see that same, we even heard that fragmentation talk, and the only way to overcome that or to work with that is to adapt.
Yeah, so maybe I've got an opinion to this, not being a telco, right? So Unify provides technology, and we do this actually to many telcos. So Telefonica, for example, runs soft PBX in an OpEx model as a service. But now with the new technologies, especially with WebRTC and WebRTC doing right, and we saw the challenges around MCU scaling and all that, we decided to do our own cloud because all the telcos were too slow, to be honest. And we decided to show that you can create a high value model as well. So there are two routes to the market. So either you go with an API, right? You guys love it as a developer, right? You go with an API first and keep it to independent developer to create high value. Or you get out with a high value public cloud application and then expose the APIs underneath of it when you get market share on the high value application. So we take this route, get a high value application out, and now this is not really public, but I'm disclosing it here. We are opening up our platform with all the APIs underneath of it, of our public cloud circuit environment. So, and again, the telcos are by far too slow to do this and still struggle with the basics, right? So I still see telcos that struggle with the commodity basics of the last generation, like zip trunk and all this simple things. And now many telcos struggle to understand, for example, how to scale MCUs, right? And we solved all these problems. And that's why we run our own cloud. That's kind of provocative to the telcos. Make it spicy. Last panel needs to be spicy.
Yeah, so I can take it further. Yeah, we are slow. I really accept that. But yeah, we are also working towards it. And as a telco service provider, I must say that we are trying to bring an extension of IMS with WebRTC. So we think that they come together and we can offer collaboration together there. And with the help of WebRTC, we can extend the IMS services seamlessly on other devices which are not SIM enabled. So that's what we are working towards. And also we have identified that there will be a digital service providers who are going to bring new services in the market. It is not Viber, Skype, and others, but there will be several digital services that will exist in the market, like your e-health, education, and all services. And there we can play a role by extending voice over LTE or RCS, or you can say any RCS type. It shouldn't be the GSMA brand itself, but any standard application services there. They can be used by these digital services with the help of WebRTC. So WebRTC for us can bridge the gap that we have in offering these services to the market. That's how we see WebRTC playing a role for the telcos to help us bridge the gap that we were missing and that the OTT providers have as of today. So we see it as an extension, and we really welcome the standards that are happening and allowing that there will be the codec issues have been resolved to some extent. So it is really helping us, and we are looking forward to build some good applications on top.
Okay.
I mean, I think that the criticism of the telcos being slow may or may not be fair, but they're still a quite trusted brand by a lot of the users, and I think particularly at large scale and for enterprise applications and so on. So I think the opportunity for the telcos is to exploit some of that positive aspects that they have. Yeah. And I think what WebRTC provides is it provides a very low friction way for telcos to get on next generation devices. And I would really suggest that perhaps WebRTC may replace things like SIP and become the sort of preferred signaling access for next generation devices. And in that context, I think we've heard the interest of the telcos in providing APIs for developers. And I think that one of the things that we're interested in ATIS, I mean, we work across the industry defining standards, is this problem around signaling and incompatible APIs that we've heard a few people talk about already today. And what we're looking at to try and address that is to provide a common API that's independent of the signaling in the clients, which can allow developers to work across different telcos without forcing the telcos to select a particular signaling protocol. So I think that openness for developers and consistency of APIs for developers is an important attribute for telcos to consider.
Just a bit of background, unless like everyone here knows how a telco works from the inside on the network. The 3G and 2G network had voice and messaging. 4G doesn't have that. There is absolutely nothing. It's just a plain IP flat thing. And that's where VoLTE comes in for a telco, because we're starting to build out 4G networks in places where there are no 2G and 3G. And you would look pretty stupid as a telco, deliver a phone to somebody that connects to a tower and you can't phone anyone. So we really need voice and we really need messaging. And that's where the VoLTE and the RCS comes in, because it's like bread and butter. And it's slow and it's built by somebody else and it's by like all the bad stuff, but it's sort of, we're not looking to that platform, I think, to innovate on top. That's why we're looking to WebRTC. So we're going to deploy both of them, and we're going to look to WebRTC for both connecting to like the rest of the world and non-telco endpoints, and we're going to look to it to develop services that are in line with what's expected today on sort of more feature-rich services. At some point there might blend, but I think that for the telco point of view, we need to ride both those horses. One for convenience and one for to actually be with the crowd. And that's they're not that sort of in competition, because WebRTC, as Talkbox said there, it's basically some of the stuff you need, but you have to do all the rest. And the VoLTE stack, it provides all the rest for us. So for WebRTC, we're more looking into what you guys are doing and seeing how you can implement communication in everyday applications, or as part of the experience of doing something else that might find voice handy as an additional thing. There's also the thing that telcos have over time sort of added features for specifically businesses to sort of pad onto their sort of straight voice and messaging. So there's a lot of stuff that's been coded on top of a very ugly platform in a very ugly way to give new features to businesses. I think that part of the business is going through WebRTC going forward, because even though you've learned something from the last time, the 4G VoLTE thing still is very ugly to code against.
So in terms of implementation timelines, I think you kind of highlighted, Olav, it's definitely something we are looking into, and we will make it happen. What do you think realistically, is something is really going to be sort of materializing in this sort of short, I dare say short stroke midterm, in a sort of real world example, if you like?
Well, it depends on what you mean. Like Telenor already has a WebRTC-based video service.
That's
running.
what I was trying to sort of strive.
Appear.in, which we have, it was pretty much developed by 2 interns over a weekend. And we figured that this is actually worth something that we should look into and see how we can improve and how we can sort of look at communications in a different way without being slowed down by the interface down to the actual telco systems. So that's, we're already there.
Okay, I would just, I mean, all the telcos we're working with, dispelling the myth of being slow. They are very fast, very quick to build applications. Now, I think the slow part is taking them to market, and it's more of a business issue, a business problem, and how does it fit into their business model. That's the slow part, and how they make money out of it.
Yeah, and that's actually the maybe to get back to the truth. That's the hard part. So the business model is the hard part that a telco needs to fix, and the technology can help, and the technology community can help. So the more ideas you guys have to do with the APIs or to create value around the apps, the easier it is for everybody here on the panel to create good business models. And just to give you an idea what I learned in my previous job about business models. So I used to be analyst with Forrester Research. So last 7 years. So I learned that there are 2 good business models that work in cloud scale. Either the business model is a really, really high volume business model, but then you get a freaky low margin, right? Or the business model is a high margin model and a high value model, but then you have relatively small number of customers. So a high margin model you can hardly repeat to hundreds, maybe thousands, but definitely not millions and millions. So the former luxury that the telcos had, was all respect, is that they had both, right? They had 20 million subscribers and more or less the same SIM card, and sold that at 27-28% margin. And that was an excellent business, right? And now it's very hard to find something alike, because in the cloud you have these two extremes, right? So the low margin commodity business that gets into volume, like Amazon, right? Amazon's infrastructure business, right? How much margin do they run? 9% maybe? Well, they do not disclose, but it's about 9%. And when they get more economy of scale, what do? Do they get the money? No, they lower prices to get more volume, right? To even do this more, right? So if there will be some of that maybe telcos do, maybe telcos at some point become really good in running MCU farms. I would give up my own, definitely. Yeah, because you guys can do this better, because you understand scale. Yeah. Today, I need to do it on my own. I don't want this. Yeah. So this is the reality. So we have to be quick on technology, understand technology, be creative, and then see what business models comes out, and then we reshape the system, right? And reallocate the roles of different people, of software vendors, of cloud providers, of infrastructure providers, of telcos, to realign it to what makes sense in the business model. I think that shake out of who does what is a very, very interesting process.
I mean, I think we know how to deliver velocity in services, right? Because you do it the way that Amazon does it and Google does it, which is to create platforms internally and to create open developer environments, both internally and externally. And I think when the telcos do that, they can be as fast as anybody else if they allow it to happen. So the first step is to enable the platform, and the second step is to build the community around it.
Yeah. So my take on this is VoLTE. I mean, I'm sure that you all are aware of it, how it is going on with voice over LTE. So currently we see that by the end of this year, 100 networks will be voice over LTE enabled. So that's as he said. I mean, it's my friend said, it's the bread and butter for us. It has to be there. And then we think that IMS can play a big role here because they have the private and the public identity concept. And WebRTC can provide the extension of this public identities there, and there we can use the WebRTC capabilities to extend our services towards the end user in different forms. So it would be a B2B2C business model. I mean, we are not going to charge per minute towards the end user. While we are going to do it, we will sell it to the insurance company, and then they charge you in the package that you pay to them. So I'm sure that WebRTC can bring a new revenue stream to the telecom market. But yeah, it would be a different business model than it exists today for the voice and messaging.
Okay, I think we have a question from Dean.
Yeah, from me. So for telephony, there's whatever it is, several billion existing telecom customers around the world with phones. So it makes sense to extend that out to the web. For video, there's very, very few. Probably Appear.in has more video customers than all of the rest of the world's telecom operator video calling put together. For SMS, there's billions of users. For RCS, you could fit the active user base in this room. And most of those are probably in carriers. So we've got at one end, we've got services which are hugely, massively popular with billions of users, and at the other end they've got zero. Why does it make sense to use WebRTC in the same way for the multi-billion user extension market and starting from ground zero ones?
I'm glad you steer us that direction, because we've had some wonderful discussions here around the video and audio portion of WebRTC. And I've been around many demonstrations and prototypes that show it, and I look at that and go, well, that's good. That's what I get with Skype. You know, who cares? Or I get that through WebEx. The real value I see or have seen is when you bring context into the discussion of video or audio. And whatever that context is, all of a sudden it comes to life. And now it has meaning, or it's useful. And then again, context, I'm now talking about the data channel, or utilization of the data channel, or presenting whatever that data is. When I'm talking or visually seeing someone, and then seeing what that data or the context of what we're talking about is there in front of me as well. Now all of a sudden it becomes very meaningful, and now WebRTC makes sense. Now it's like, oh, the normal web stuff I do, surfing the web or buying from Amazon or doing social networking, oh, now I have audio and video with that. Now there's a whole new form of communications that I didn't have before.
And therefore it needs to be very, very simple for a developer of any experience level to include that, right? So for example, if you are a real developer, you understand the Node libraries and the JavaScript SDKs to do this. But if you are just a average or junior HTML developer, you want to have something even more simpler, right? So that's why we look, for example, at the Polymer framework and wrap things into Polymer framework. So basically, initiating a video call me button is nothing more than at the end 3 lines of special HTML. Mm-hmm. So to make it extremely simple for those people that want to digest it that way. And on the other side, the interesting thing is really to create the value and create the new way of applications. So, for example, just adding a video stream to an e-commerce application. So you mentioned buying something online makes sense if there is somebody on the other side that can answer your questions. It's questionable at Amazon, but if on the other side there might be new application logic. So, for example, in larger enterprises, and we are dealing with tens of millions of corporate users, and in larger enterprises they have a mess, right? They have communication on the one side, which is mostly voice, little bit video, a lot of screen sharing meanwhile, which is for WebRTC the same like video. And so there's this communication part, but there's also this collaboration part, right? So people think of, how can I write this document? How can I show this document? So they write something in Word and send it via attachment to somebody else via email. So how horrible is that, right? So if we would be in the Bay Area, everybody says, oh no, we are on Google Apps, right? So how many people are on Google Apps? Maybe here on the university, Google Apps? Okay. So you have 99% in San Francisco, right? So, by the way, in San Francisco you won't find any Microsoft product on the average Mac, right? So that means this changed totally, but still it's a silo. Even if you do extreme collaboration, and even if you look at Google, right? Google Apps and Hangout, does this really work together? No, it does not, because I cannot see who edited something and call the guy and ask him, what have you done with my document? So this is something that we need to solve to bring it to a higher level of value, right? Just doing video chats, right? People say, okay, I've got Skype. Right? Skype is not WebRTC, but who cares from the consumer side, right? And it's a big nightmare for over-the-top service if people burn your bandwidth with Skype, right? If somebody burns your bandwidth, at least you want to have some value in this production chain. Yeah. So, and this is the again getting back how technology and business models work together. It's a very interesting interaction that we need to find the technologists, the telcos, the developers, and the creative ways of good applications that leverage new technology but bring a fresh idea. For example, merging collaboration and communication. Right? Docs, real-time editing on docs, and WebRTC sessions. These kind of things making together, and it's very WebRTC in general is more capable than what you think today. right? Having the media and the data stream together. Nobody really uses this. Maybe except us, but there's much more we could do with WebRTC.
Okay, so any other comments?
Quick comment on that. I agree that sort of having 100 Skype-like applications for video, all you're going to do is fragment the directory, and you're going to have small islands that are able to reach each other, and then you need to build an umbrella thing, and the whole thing just stops working. But I think that the sort of the communication channel inside another arena is the way to go, and also the data channel, because like it's not been used before, and it's a new thing, and what can you do with it? Like all the other stuff is really replicating existing systems that already exist and already work quite well. You would, of course, be sort of rich if you managed to do Skype 2 and it actually takes off. So, but the chances are doing that on the data channel with some really new, exciting idea, it's a much greater chance of success.
So, for example, we show how you do a co-editing of a document, similar to what people can do with Google Docs already, but not with Google, but with our technology. Do a co-editing of documents based on the data channel of WebRTC while you look at the people, right? So you transport the video and the voice, but you also transport, the movement of the cursor, who's writing what at what location. Mm-hmm. Right, so this is pretty cool stuff that is just starting, right?
Absolutely. I think there are a couple of examples without promoting Congress. I think I've seen actually a couple of demos in the last few days about the leveraging data channel in particular in the M2M space. The kind of how a person can interact with a machine or a machine can interact with a person. So that kind of area is definitely something to be more explored.
I mean, I think coming back to Dean's original question, right? We see this a lot in technology when new things come along, is that certain applications and use cases sort of become commoditized and eventually become standardized either through a sort of formal standards process or de facto standards driven by industry leaders. And then beyond that, there is a whole set of things which are very dynamic and potentially very proprietary, which address niches or address innovative applications. And I think sort of the way people are talking about that, you can start to see the same structure appearing in WebRTC, where things like click-to-call are going to be very common and very basic, and then perhaps real-time collaboration being a much more complicated and a nuanced sort of application.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's what we had time for today. Thank you so much. Thank you for the panelists.